Hey, church family, I wanted to take this opportunity to present you with another word of encouragement as we continue to watch the end times unfolding right before our very eyes. Now, it was last Tuesday on Texas Independence Day when Governor Greg Abbott announced that he's finally lifting the mask mandate here in the state of Texas. And while there are many who are freaking out because, they still watch CNN, Governor Abbott reminds us that business owners here in Texas still have the freedom to make their own decisions to limit capacity or to implement safety protocols like requiring masks. And here's how he put it: people and businesses don't need the state to tell them how to operate. To that I say amen. In other words, what he's saying here is, listen, if a business owner wants to enforce mask rules for their store or their restaurant, they can. They have the freedom to do that. If another business owner decides to let their customers come in without masks, bearing their naked face, that's their right as well. We have freedom here in Texas. And every Texan also has the freedom to make up our own minds regarding the businesses that we choose to support. If you go to a restaurant or a store and you don't like their mask policy, you don't have to go back. You can make that decision. This is Texas independence, and it's about time that we get back to it. Sadly, President Joe Biden disagreed with Governor Abbott's decision. He even told reporters that he thinks that the lifting of mask mandates is a big mistake. Not only that, but President Biden also took a jab at our governor, and he did this by declaring the last thing we need is Neanderthal thinking, that in the meantime, everything's fine. Take off your mask and forget it. Now, just to be clear about this, the word Neanderthal in this context, it's used of those who are uncivilized, unintelligent, and uncouth. And with this definition in mind, it seems to me that President Biden was sort of accusing Governor Greg Abbott of being a Neanderthal. And the reason why is because he thinks that the lifting of the mask mandate here in Texas is due to the fact that Governor Abbott is uncivilized, unintelligent, and uncouth. Is that the case? Is our governor uncivilized? Is he unintelligent? Is he an uncouth person? Does his decision to lift the mask mandate here in Texas merit this sort of ad hominem attack from President Biden? Well, before we rush to answer this question, I would draw your attention to a report that comes from rationalground.com. This is actually a clearinghouse of COVID-19 data trends that's run by a group of grassroots researchers. And these researchers spent time examining COVID-19 cases covering a period of time from May 1st through December the 15th, 2020. And they compared the days in which state governments had imposed mask mandates to the days when they hadn't. And after analyzing all this information, what they discovered is that the states with mask mandates in place, they produced an average of 10 more reported infections per 100,000 people per day than the states without mask mandates. In other words, COVID-19 case rates always increase wherever mask mandates were found. Now, I realize that there will be those who are quick to insist that, well, they implemented the mask mandate too late, or the masks didn't work because, many people wore the wrong masks, or they wore their masks improperly. Some might even argue that, well, it's unfair to compare the data from states like Wyoming to the data coming from New York, all the while ignoring the fact that comparative states like California and Florida, their data also goes to show that case rates are always higher in the states that enforce mask mandates. And yet, even this data won't dissuade those who truly trust in their mask. One of the researchers that I'm referring to, his name is Ian Miller, he goes on to assure us of this. He says the mask religion will have a number of inaccurate excuses ready to go, but of course they're obscuring and ignoring that this should not be possible, no matter what the mitigating circumstances, if masks were as effective or important as we were told. Simply put, what he's saying is that if mask mandates actually worked, then the data would show the scientific evidence of success, but the data does not show this. The data actually reveals higher case rates in states where mask mandates were implemented. Therefore, listen, there is no data-driven scientific reason for us to believe that mask mandates have helped to slow the spread of COVID-19. And with that being the case, listen, there's no scientific reason for us to think that the lifting of a mask mandate is then uncivilized, unintelligent, nor is it uncouth. Now, I realize that President Joe Biden has fully embraced the belief that masks actually protect people from COVID-19, and yet that's what it is. It's a belief. And not only that, but it's a belief that seems to be in conflict with the data. And while I certainly grant every person the right to believe whatever they want to believe, if a person believes that their mask will save them from COVID-19, they're welcome to believe that. And yet for me, I personally applaud Governor Greg Abbott's decision to restore our freedom here in the great state of Texas so that we can decide for ourselves whether we want to wear a mask or not. Texan, listen, as of next Wednesday, March the 10th, the mask mandate here in Texas will finally be lifted. And with that being the case, we ought to rejoice. Regardless of what you believe about this, we ought to rejoice because, listen, Texans will no longer be forced to live under these overreaching executive orders. And what this means is that we can finally celebrate our Texas independence this Wednesday with unveiled faces, if you like. And if you like, you can choose to exercise your Texas independence by continuing to wear a mask. That's your right as a Texan. We ought to be able to choose to either wear a mask or not wear a mask. Not only that, but I would also remind you that every Texas resident who disagrees with the governor's decision, if you think that Governor Greg Abbott is a complete Neanderthal for making this decision, you have Texas independence that gives you the right to move to another state where mask mandates are still being enforced. My understanding is that there are currently many vacancies there in California. I'm joking. I'm sort of joking. But seriously, regardless of whether you believe in masks or not, every Texan can rejoice that our governor is finally lifting that ineffective mask mandate, which he forced upon us last March at the beginning of the pandemic. And rather than continuing to exercise executive authority like some sort of draconian dictator, Governor Abbott is finally restoring our independence by allowing every Texan to make up their own mind as to whether we want to wear a mask or not. And with that being the case, it's my hope that Texans will not only celebrate the governor's decision, but that we will also recognize the need to defend our freedom against those who would limit our liberty, all in the name of safety. Finally, I would remind you of something Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 3. There he declares, "The Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. But we all, with unveiled face, behold as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as by the Spirit of the Lord." Christian, listen, those who have received the Spirit of the Lord by faith in Jesus Christ, we have received the liberty by which we have been set free from the bondage of the law. Therefore, rather than trusting in a flimsy veil to save our life from COVID-19, I encourage you to trust in the one who has liberated us from the fear of death. And with that being the case, I encourage you, Christian, let's stand fast in the liberty that the Lord has provided to those who trust in Jesus. And let's continue to walk in the liberty of the Lord with unveiled faces. And as we do, let's continue to fight the good fight of faith, all for the glory of God.